Hi everyone, Mature Simmer here. So today's the day that I am going to at least make some progress on getting crops sold and clear up my silo. At a minimum, I'm going to get rid of one crop type, which is the sorghum. Because I can still sell it on the server for more. It's available direct sell for $364, and I can get right now $379 or $399 at one of the locations that are sell points here on the map. And more importantly, I also get the benefit of the environmental score bonus. So I'm going to start with the sorghum. Now I've looked at wheat and barley. This is always the challenge here, but I think if I pull through and then do this, I think that might work. But let me do the sorghum. And I don't think I have any limits, but we'll find out. If it stops, then clearly I do. Let me zoom back out some so that we have as little engine noise as possible. Yes, that's right, sorghum does max out. So I can't quite get 80,000. But the 500 some thousand I have is going to take what? Even if it was 80,000, I think it would still take me 7. So yeah, and this may be enough that I'm going to need 8 trips, which is all right. I mean, because it's my reality, it's what I've got. There's nothing I can do about it other than do the work. But one of the benefits, and that's kind of what I was thinking about at this point, is not having the pigs. I no longer have to store crop for feed. So it's honestly something that hadn't occurred to me until I was thinking about it, that with the cows, while I need a certain crop type to generate straw periodically, I'm not precluded from selling that crop. So I'm able to go ahead and earn the benefits of everything. Yeah, I saw that Rented had a lot of things staged here on the field, so I'm guessing today's going to be planting day up here. Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of folks do put the air cart behind, which again, you can do either one, but he's got a different one that fills with an auger, so you can do it from further away and not have to pull up to things. But yes, right now it was $399 up here. And so the challenge I have is simply a tracking challenge, is to kind of try to update my finances appropriately. So basically for years I've been saving crop, and then I've been feeding some of that crop to the pigs. So obviously the only income I've had is those pigs, which has been pretty flat. I have asked for a transfer of $250,000 from the wheat sales, which were $266,000 plus, from the $480,000 wheat that I had sent to direct sale. Those came in, and so those I'm waiting for those to come in. So the 620 does not reflect that. So we're going to get $250,000 from that. But in the interim, my thought was, well, at this point, I've just got crop sitting in the silo that I no longer need to have sitting in the silo. So I believe this is the way to get to the grain point. No, actually I think it's that large grain mill there. So this road is just the grocery, I guess. Alright, well this is fenced in, so I'm gonna have to... I can't really get there from here, but I'm thinking... Oh, this is Peavy. I can't get there either. Well, interesting. The truck has a very large turn radius. I think I can go through here. I'm not seeing anything sitting out there, so we'll drive through the grass here, because I believe this is the location. Right, so it's just that front road. So there's two GCHB or GHCB, I don't remember the sequence, but there's two grain locations, and this one happens to right now be the one that is going to give me more. So yeah, it's 396 and falling. That one's rising, so I'll just have to keep an eye on things as I go. But I think I'm just going to need to do the dollar amount as I go through this, because again, I've got this environmental score that's coming in as well, as you can see. But I'm getting 2,165 because I'm getting 14% of an environmental score bonus. So that's why I thought, all right, now I'm in a good spot to be able to sell this sorghum, where before we did a truckload and lost money. Alright, so we'll pull out and we'll go get more loads. But yeah, the simplest thing obviously is if I can get a premium selling in-game, I'm immediately getting the money and I don't have to wait. So, we've got another 35,000 just because of one truckload of what was sitting in the silo. But what I need to do on the finances is, as opposed to just having it calculate, because in the past what I've done is sold the entire load or the entire harvest for some set amount, and so my spreadsheets are set up to basically say, here's the crop price. But even in the wheat that I did, like I didn't have 480,000 exactly in some harvest. So what I did was I did have one harvest that was a little bit lower than that. I think it was like 420,000, and then I took the remainder and just went back to the wheat. And to give you an idea now of what we're talking about, and kind of not really foregone income, but it's income that I guess was banked. It's sitting in the silo. I did not realize the first crop of wheat that I stored that I still have no income from until today, or until those 480,000, and I took that remainder, which was like 47,000 liters, and put it against it, was from year 82, and we are now in year 97. So 15 years that wheat has been there, which again is one of the things Farming Simulator doesn't model, because I'm pretty sure wheat would have rotted in the silo in 15 years in reality. But thank goodness we're able to just kind of store it indefinitely if we want. And so that's a long time. I was in Seneca longer than that. Again, I came on board, I think I had my first crop sale from Hilly Seneca in year 57. So this is now my 40th year farming in FSN, but you know, I got on the farm, I think, in year 55, and then I don't think I could build anything until later, and then the harvest was later, so I don't remember why it took a while. It took an extra year. Maybe I'm off in my memory, which is certainly possible as well. Alright, so but the nice thing here is I can clear everything out, including even my root crop on my potatoes, but I just don't know that I'm going to do all of this immediately, all today, but honestly, it doesn't really matter if I do. In theory, I could probably try to really figure out how to max out the yield, but with the 2 sell point options we've got, I was just making sure I was connected, but obviously I had to have been, or I couldn't have dumped the grain. So it's just such a slow start when you take off, when they're fully loaded. But what I was saying is, with the 2 options, it's usually high enough somewhere that you can sell at any time and do a good job. So I have checked wheat and barley so far as well, and both wheat and barley are I think in the 500s on direct sale, and they're only in the 300s here, but I'm not going to get that high in game. And for example, like wheat, I think is $15 less per thousand than it was when I sold the 480, but it's still much higher, I think over or almost 200, so certainly 150 a liter over what I was doing. Now let me just check. Alright, it's still $3.96, so there's a possibility it may suddenly be better for me to haul south and go to the sell point at the south end. So I just need to check before I head out, because when I did fill up, it was, like I said, $3.99 at this location, and now we're down to $3.96, and a lot of times it drops simply because they've gotten grain and now their demand is lower, because I've given them 78,000 liters of sorghum. Now I'm going to give them another 78. But one thing I have not tracked, and I don't think it's tied to the hour, but it may be. So what may have changed again, certainly now that I think about it, you saw when you joined right at the beginning that I was syncing the server and moving it, in essence, a couple hours, because it was 4 something, I think it was like 4:53, and I had to sync it to 6. So 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 2 hours that we hit, where it seems most activities take place on the server at the top of the hour. The animals eat and produce and so forth. So I think it's possible the pricing just changes then and no other time, so that everything I haul in the next 46 minutes is going to still be at $3.96. But I also recall seeing that when I sell product, that again, sometimes that supply and demand causes an immediate change, and so we'll see what happens. I just need to monitor it. But I'm thinking it doesn't change, between just driving. Yeah, it's still $3.96. So we'll get this in here. This is still not going to get us to 700, I don't think. It's going to get us close, though. So, but yeah, the only time I've not sold, I don't think I've ever sold directly, certainly not when I've been tracking my finances, so it might have been very, very early on before I was doing things, or when I was doing them as a contractor, so I wouldn't have been paying attention, because at that point I just had orders to sell, and I was getting paid to sell. I wasn't getting paid to monitor. But yeah, still 396 even after all that. So, and still 377 out at the other location. So it is possible that it just changes hourly. Alright, so simple math would say we moved 160,000, but we haven't. We've moved 4,000 plus less than that. So let's see. Just paying attention so I don't run off the road here. But yeah, what got me to this point really was, obviously, as I ended yesterday, I made the comment that there really isn't a lot of things to do here. So I know I have downtime on FSN for several months, and as I was thinking, like, is there anything, is there any cleanup I need to do, knowing that there wasn't really no physical cleanup that was waiting for me, like, for example, removing the island that we did in the winter a couple years ago before planting the grass. I knew these items were sitting in the silo, and that's when I started exploring and thinking through, well, is there any benefit to continuing to hold them? Because the thing that was eating away in my mind was, all right, when harvest comes, am I going to suddenly have to immediately try to sell something at some point because I'm going to be taking a truck of wheat to the silo and be told no room? And one would think, because I moved 488,000 or 480,000 liters of wheat, that I might be clear of that as long as I continue to keep selling. But then the next step was, well, but why am I keeping any of it? It's money I could make, and I no longer have a reason to hold on to it, because for a while we were preparing this space and getting the dairy operation running, I still had the pigs that I was waiting for because I didn't have the cows over yet, so I wanted to wait. I mean, in theory, I could have still been holding on to them a little bit, continuing to do these while I wait for the cows to get to the point where I'm really, making enough, because I think, today I might finally have the point. Let's see. So yes, I've crossed the 50,000 point of milk, which means I've got a full tanker of milk finally after this time. Cows are, 8 months in. So, this kind of gets to the other point. And that other point is just being careful, and I can't talk when I'm being careful. I'll just be honest there. So, but the other point is then something that I've not talked about, but certainly every time I'm done with recording, I realize, gee, I hadn't shared that. So while I'm thinking of it again, we're waiting. We're 2 months away now from having another 36 cattle show up. But those cattle have to grow then at that point. And so I may be incorrect, so I apologize if I'm wrong a little bit. Someone can correct me down below, or I'm sure I'll correct myself in the future when I realize that if I've made a mistake. But what I recall is basically cows then need to grow for 10 months. So they have to be 10 months old before they can start producing milk. And then they have to go another 8 months before they get to reproduction age. So out to 18 months, which is why there's 3 purchase points of cows from the animal dealer. You can get newborns that are 0 months that basically are going to start as the 36 that we're going to have here in July are going to be. And they start at 0. You can buy some at 10, where basically what you're paying for is obviously that's 10 months of maturity, but the benefit of those 10 months of maturity is then you're getting milk from them at that point immediately. So you're buying a animal that is capable of dairy production immediately, of milk production. Or you pay for the most expensive ones that we did for $15.50 a head that are at reproductive age. So they're obviously already past the age of producing milk, which is what ours are doing. You know, and they have to be, I think, 100% healthy to produce milk. So the one thing it would logically seem that, well, even if they're not healthy immediately, I was going to say when they're born, I'm not sure that they actually have 100% health. I think it takes a little bit, but I think they just need to eat because their health goes up per hour as opposed to the reproduction going up per day. So within a day they'd be healthy, basically, even if they weren't within 10 hours. But by the time they get to the production age in 10 months, you know, as long as obviously I'm feeding them ongoingly, they'll be immediately at 100% health and be able to produce milk instantly. But what that means is, even though I'm going to have more cows for 10 months after July, so another 10-month cycle, there's not going to be a change in what I'm seeing in production, other than I assume the slurry goes up immediately. But, and then at that 10-month cycle, we'll have another round of calves. So we'll get another 36, but we'll only have milk production happening. Then, 8 months after that, we're going to have some, or I'm sorry, 8 months after that, the first batch of cows that we're going to get here in 2 months are going to then start their reproductive countdown of 10 months. Then 2 months after that, we're going to have another 36 cows from this original breeding set that I've got here. So that will be, you know, 4 groups, so we'll be at 144 head at that point. But still, the only ones that are reproducing at all have been that first set. So we're going to basically get through to the 3rd, 4th generation. I don't know exactly how you count that. I assume it'd be the 4th, because the first generation are the ones we have now. And then basically 8 months after those are born, then see, now I'm losing myself in the math even. So it might be 6 months after that, because we just went, you know, 2 months in because of the group. But the cycle of growth is going to be pretty slow as far as productivity. So, because you can see, you know, we have to go from 0 to 28 months on an animal before they have their first calf. So, you know, over 2 years. Now, again, we had to wait basically 2 years for the pigs to get to sell point, so it's a similar cycle, but it just creates some interesting things that we'll be seeing as we go along, and obviously we're going to have plenty of time, because we're talking about a whole month in real time, basically, before an animal has had its first calf. So we do have more of a waiting game here, because I think pigs were able to do that much faster. But once again, the only income from pigs was selling the pigs themselves. So having that cycle earlier, was helpful. Because if we had to wait 28 months, but they were able to be sold at 24, that obviously wouldn't have worked very well, because we'd never have gotten reproduction going. But obviously the cycle, I think it was 9 months or something before they could then have them, and then they didn't go up in 10-month increments like that. So that was the piece that I had kind of been thinking through, is that we're still looking at, while we're going to be getting some lag here. You can hear the beep acting strangely, like it's because it's throwing it into reverse as it does that. It's just a weird happening that occurs on Farming Simulator, or at least here on the servers. I don't know that I guess I've seen it in single player too. Alright, so we're below 300,000, but as you can see, this does take a bit of time. Alright, it's staying exactly the same, so I am beginning to think that it's just going to change at the hour. I'm worried I'm going to get that trailer hung up in the back. I'm going to pull out more straight so that I can get clearer. But yeah, this is the plan right now, is to make some progress over the next few months on selling crop. And there's no reason I can't empty the silos, so I'll likely do that. I don't know that I'm going to do it all today. Come on. It is hung up on that last piece there. Oh boy. Alright, so I think I'll just go straight here if I can. Alright, well, I'll fight this battle on my own, because I think you understand what's happening, and this has turned into a goodly length again for what we need. So, and I'm not even done with the sorghum, and at this rate, who knows when I'll be done with the sorghum. I thought for sure I'd have enough momentum there to get myself out of here, because trying to turn is just going to be a mess. But yeah, this should hopefully give me enough now, just because, again, that slow roll, as we talked about, to get moving is a big challenge. Goodness gracious. So anyway, even as it's taking me forever to wrap up here, I am done with what I'll drag you along for. But, I have hours and hours of fun either taking things to customs or selling here on the map. But I'm going to finish for sure selling the sorghum, and I'll figure out the rest later. And I may or may not decide to pop in and generate another episode for you based on something, but I may not, and the next time we may see each other is harvest, where I'll simply kind of inform you that crops are sold, and maybe provide some information on the finance details and so forth. But at this point, this will start to help generate some profit for Shellbrook, because for the last 15 years there have been gaps in that profit as we've been storing this stuff in the silo. So now we're making up for that all in 1 year, probably. So I'll see you next time.